a horrific crime. I am struck by the casualness in which it was committed, the absolute disregard for human life.
Welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin, situated at the Brown County Courthouse, where the recent scene of a woman attacking her own attorney reveals her conviction for the murder and dismemberment of her ex-boyfriend. Taylor Shabusness, 25, faced charges including homicide, third-degree sexual abuse, and mutilating a corpse in the February 2022 killing of her former partner, 24-year-old Shad Therian. The trial unfolded in two phases. The first confirming her guilt in the acts against Therian, while the second assessed her mental state. Despite the defense's assertion of her suffering from a mental ailment during the crime, the jury rejected this claim. Back in February 2022, the victim's mother made a gruesome discovery in her Stony Brook Lane house, her son's head in a bucket in the basement. This horrifying encounter marked the beginning of a tragic day. Inside, a green bucket concealed by a shower towel lay the severed head of her 24-year-old son. Law enforcement later discovered Therian's lifeless body and removed organs from her basement. The trial this week starkly depicted the chilling nature of the murder, with Taylor standing trial for the killing. Taylor and the victim had a history dating back to middle school and were engaged in a sexual relationship, as she disclosed to law enforcement. On the day of Therian's demise, they had consumed prescription drugs and methamphetamines. As per a criminal complaint filed by prosecutors, Taylor picked up the victim around 9:30 p.m. on February 21, 2022. A mutual friend joined them before they proceeded to an apartment where the trio smoked marijuana. Taylor admitted to police that they also used methamphetamine and injected trazodone. Subsequently, she spent the day at his mother's residence while the mother was absent. Reportedly, Therian lay face down on the bed as Taylor repeatedly choked him, despite him coughing blood and turning purple. Around 2:30 a.m., the victim's mother was awakened by a knock at her front door. Upon checking the basement for Therian and not finding him, she returned upstairs, discovering the bucket containing part of her son's remains. Her boyfriend, Steve Hendricks, immediately dialed 911. Body camera footage from responding officers captured the search of the basement and the securing of the crime scene upon confirming the presence of a human head in the bucket. Cooperating with the authorities, Therian's mother disclosed that her son was last seen with Taylor. They swiftly located Taylor at an Eastman Avenue apartment complex, her arrest captured on police body camera and presented as evidence. This wasn't Taylor's first encounter with the law. She had prior convictions for unrelated charges of fleeing, escaping, and obstructing a police officer, leading to a 3-month jail sentence in January 2022. Throughout the trial, despite the gruesome details of the murder, Taylor was observed smirking on several occasions. At one point, she even attacked her own lawyer, requiring a deputy to intervene and wrestle her to the courtroom floor. Let's view the clip. As previously noted, the trial's second phase focused on Taylor's mental state. Initially, her former attorney entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Forensic psychologist Dr. Diane Litton provided insights into this aspect.
My opinion is that she qualifies for the not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. My opinions are that she was not responsible because of a mental disease.
Previously, a court-appointed physician determined her fit for trial. Taylor's attorney had revealed her past bipolar diagnosis and ongoing mental health treatment since 7th grade. However, Brown County Circuit Court Judge Thomas Walsh ruled in March that Taylor was competent for trial. During sentencing, the jury deliberated for just 30 minutes before convicting her on all counts: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault in Therian's death. Wisconsin's legal framework prohibited the death penalty, resulting in a life sentence for Taylor. As the verdict was delivered, she remained motionless, similar to any emotionless convicted felon.
was a horrific crime. I am struck by the casualness in which it was committed, the absolute disregard for human life.
This is the Jefferson County District Court, where Acting United States Attorney Daniel P. Bubar and Special Agent in Charge Raymond Villanueva for HSI's Washington, D.C. field office announced the life sentence of convicted murderer Abel Gallegos. Gallegos faced multiple charges, including murder, conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree kidnapping, retaliation against a witness, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. The tragic event unfolded in November 2019 when 28-year-old Simone Duran was kidnapped and killed in Jefferson County, Colorado. Gallegos attempted to dispose of Duran's body by setting it on fire, but his attempt failed and a hiker discovered her remains. The motive behind Duran's kidnapping and murder seemed to be retaliation, as she had identified a gang member, Alonzo Quintana, in a lineup following an earlier murder investigation in Adams County in 2018. Throughout the trial, the prosecution detailed Gallegos' thorough planning of the murder and presented evidence of his history of violent behavior and involvement in gang activity. Conversely, the defense argued that the evidence against Gallegos was conditional, lacking direct links to the murder. They also suggested a possible connection between Duran's involvement in drugs and gang activity and her murder. During the sentencing, Duran's family members shared the deep impact of her loss on their lives. They portrayed her as a loving mother, daughter, and friend with a promising future. While expressing relief that Gallegos was held accountable for her murder, they mourned the irreversible pain caused by her death. The life sentence ensures Gallegos will spend his days in prison. However, his emotionless demeanor suggests an indifference that paints the image of a hardened criminal unaffected by the gravity of his actions.
This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're let out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison. And it may be symbolic, but I'm going to impose the maximum sentence just because you deserve it.
The judge delivered a verdict of life imprisonment without the chance of parole for Duran's murder, along with an additional 163 years for the other offenses. In the victim impact statement, it was heart-wrenching to hear about Duran's young children, aged 3 and 4, who woke up in the night crying for their mother. The intense absence left by her loss echoes through their innocent pleas, illustrating the enduring impact of this tragic loss on her family, particularly on her vulnerable children.
They miss her and they ask about her every day.
In Tennessee, Spencer Allen Boston made quite a memorable appearance in court. Initially facing charges of weed possession and speeding, Boston took an unconventional turn by choosing to represent himself. While this move isn't entirely uncommon, things quickly escalated as his actions led to charges of disorderly conduct and contempt of court.
Yes, sir. I think it's very unfair, the marijuana law here. I think we, the people, deserve better because marijuana is a very harmless drug, and it's been around for ages, since the 80s and 90s.
During his self-representation, Boston passionately took the floor, aiming to address Tennessee's marijuana laws. He delivered a spirited speech, emphasizing his viewpoint on the state's cannabis regulations. However, the judge didn't entertain Boston's argument. From the judge's perspective, regardless of personal beliefs or opinions, the law stands firm and must be observed without exceptions. In Tennessee, marijuana remained illegal, regardless of Boston's emotional plea for reconsideration.
I've heard that baloney all my life, so don't go any further on that.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether it's good or bad. All I know is
Yes, sir.
Tennessee still has it against the law. I swore to uphold the laws, and I have to uphold the laws as a judge. It probably is unfair, but I can't change it. You've got to go see the legislature.
The situation took a drastic turn when Boston decided to take a bold step and light up a joint right in the courtroom, catching everyone by surprise. Despite efforts from the court officer to intervene and prevent him from doing so, Boston persisted. Instead of being discouraged, he attempted to continue his speech.
Now, if you want to plead guilty, you can today, but if you want a trial, we can give you a trial.
The courtroom erupted in laughter as observers reacted to Boston's unexpected actions. However, this move didn't yield the intended impact. Instead, it added to Boston's charges, resulting in further allegations of disorderly conduct and contempt of court. What might have been intended as a protest against weed legality ultimately backfired.
Hey! We the people deserve better.
Take him to jail. Take him to jail.
Consequently, the judge, in response to Boston's actions, sentenced him to 10 days of imprisonment. Despite the attempt to advocate for his cause, Boston's decision to light up in court led to severe repercussions. In a Philadelphia courtroom, the trial of suspected rapist Titus Lee unfolded, recounting a vicious crime that occurred in November 2016. Lee faced severe charges, accused of brutally attacking 2 University of North Carolina Wilmington students in their apartment complex. He was charged with 2 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of first-degree rape, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and first-degree burglary. As per the male victim's testimony, Lee, wearing a mask and armed with a gun, assaulted him and his girlfriend while they were on their apartment porch. He allegedly restrained them in a closet while he raped the female victim, a horrifying ordeal that lasted for hours. Additionally, the victims recounted being forced to drive to an ATM and withdraw money for Lee during the ordeal. Following the attacker's departure, the victims, terrified and deeply traumatized, sought help at the male victim's parents' house in Cherry Grove, South Carolina. 3 weeks later, the assailant was detained in Philadelphia by U.S. Marshals. In court, the jury found Lee guilty on all charges. The judge subsequently sentenced him to over 100 years in prison, delivering justice nearly 5 years after the harrowing incident. Finally, the female victim had the opportunity to deliver her impact statement in court, marking a significant moment in their journey towards closure and justice.
I'd like you to know that the man sitting in that seat over there is responsible for my life being significantly harder than it was ever supposed to be. My innocence is now gone. I found myself harboring feelings of uncertainty and fear just by doing small things like going to the store or meeting a friend for dinner. Things that are supposed to be easier now are hard because I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, expecting a man like him to be behind me.
District Attorney Ben David emphasized the gravity of the situation, stating, "Titus Lee will spend the rest of his life in prison." He highlighted the exceptional nature of the case, acknowledging the rarity of a violent crime of such magnitude where the victim survived to testify. David described the incident as a hate-fueled and prolonged crime spree that was characterized by its disgusting nature. The severity and duration of the crime were deeply troubling, leaving a permanent mark on all involved in the case. The sentencing of 34-year-old Crystal Cardenas in the 3rd Judicial District Court of Las Cruces, New Mexico, marked the conclusion of a horrific case involving the murders of Mario Cabral and Vanessa Rodriguez Mora. Cardenas was found guilty on multiple charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and criminal solicitation. The tragedy, referred to as the Garfield killings, unfolded 4 years prior when a teenage girl woke to discover her mother and her mother's boyfriend slain in their home on March 25, 2018. Investigations revealed a chilling sequence of events. Cardenas and her then-boyfriend, Luis Flores, initially attempted to hire a hitman in a custody battle. When this failed, they took matters into their own hands, ultimately shooting and killing Mario Cabral and Vanessa Rodriguez Mora. The night of the murders, Rodriguez Mora's daughter, hiding in another room, heard the gunshots but believed she was having a bad dream, only to wake up and find the horrifying reality. Upon discovering the tragic scene the following day, she fled to a neighbor's house to alert the authorities. During the trial, the teenager testified, recounting the terrifying experience of hearing the gunshots and then waking to find her mother and Cabral lying in a pool of blood. The girl's testimony vividly captured the trauma and horror she endured, highlighting the tragic aftermath of the senseless violence that shattered her world.
My mom was in the couch, just bleeding from her nose. And then I was like, "Mom, wake up," and she didn't wake up.
The prosecutors and defense lawyer engaged in a vigorous courtroom battle. The district attorney outlined the events of March 25, 2018, as recounted by Mora Rodriguez's daughter. She mentioned watching television with her mom and Cabral before going to bed. Upon hearing loud noises later that night, she sought cover under a blanket, believing it to be a frightening dream. The prosecutors presented evidence and witness accounts to reconstruct the sequence of events. Allegedly, Cardenas and Flores surveilled Cabral's residence, waiting for them to sleep before the incident shortly after midnight. According to the prosecution, Flores entered the house, injuring Cabral and Mora Rodriguez. The prosecutor detailed specific actions, indicating a methodically planned attack. Authorities revealed Cardenas's initial attempt to hire someone named Edward Alonzo for a particular task. Alonzo provided insights into the scheme, but requested his identity to remain concealed when testifying in court.
She had told me that if I wasn't able to finish the job, or for some reason it wasn't able to get done when it was going to get done.
Regarding the motive, prosecutors claimed that Cardenas desired the house Cabral acquired from a significant legal settlement when they first met. Following their separation, Cabral transferred the property to their daughter. Prosecutors argued that Cardenas, facing financial difficulties and at risk of losing her own home, sought to inherit Cabral's residence to raise their daughter if he passed away. However, Cardenas's lawyer, Todd Holmes, contested this narrative. He suggested a different theory, proposing that the couple might have been targeted in a drug cartel-related incident. Holmes highlighted the absence of physical evidence, such as DNA or fingerprints, linking Flores or Cardenas to the location during the shooting. Additionally, he raised doubts about the reliability of a critical witness presented by the state, the individual who claimed Cardenas hired him to harm her ex-boyfriend. Throughout the trial, the defendant maintained her innocence.
I was shocked. I was just shocked. I was shocked. I didn't believe it.
How was your mood?
Excuse me?
How was your mood about learning that information?
I started crying.
The prosecutor strongly contested the suggestion put forth by Cardenas's lawyer regarding the involvement of a drug cartel in the deaths of Cabral and Mora Rodriguez. Referring to the absence of supporting testimony for this theory, the prosecutor emphasized, "Have you heard a single word of that? Nothing shows that because it's made up. It's there to confuse you." This was intended to dismiss the theory as baseless and aimed at creating confusion rather than presenting factual evidence.
We find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder.
After 3 hours of deliberation following the closing arguments, the jury rendered their decision. Crystal Cardenas was found guilty of 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and 1 count of criminal solicitation. However, the jury rejected a 4th charge of second-degree murder. Judge Conrad Perea of the 3rd Judicial District Court sentenced Cardenas to a combined 54 years in prison. While the charge of capital murder mandated a life sentence, Cardenas could be eligible for a parole hearing after serving several decades behind bars.